Hello YouTube, this is AndrewTheRed. So I haven't done a video in a while. I've been pretty busy this month, and usually I've been doing about a video a month in my library series because I'm always accumulating books. But I just haven't gotten around to it until now, and I have a lot that's around me here that you can't see. It's below the video. But before maybe I should tell you the sections first of all, what I have. I've got a few on education, a few economics. I've got a few on the West, what's happening to the West, where the West was in the past, etc. Kind of a special section, because I've been very interested about that lately. I've got history, I've got tons of fiction, a lot of sci-fi, probably half of them sci-fi. I've got a few politics, a few science, and a few philosophy. And so this video is going to be long, but I'll break it up probably into pieces. Before I get into those, I just want to mention a couple books I'm working on now, and one book in particular, or well, probably two of them, I'm going to do a series on, I think, that are really worthwhile. One of them I've already finished a while ago, and I probably mentioned before. It's called Icarus Fallen by Chantal Delsol. It's a translated work, originally written in French, and on Amazon it still appears to be obscure. There's very few reviews on it. But it is a fantastic book. Every line in this book is just amazing. It's wonderfully written. And you think, oh no, it's translated. That means that it's going to be difficult to read. But the translator it must be amazing. The original writing must have been great. And the translator is great. And together they've married a fantastic book. And I want to read you the very beginning of it, probably about half a page, because it sets the stage of what is being written about. Technically, this could be put in the section that I have here on the West, because it is about the West. And it introduces it, of course, with some Greek mythology, which is the story of Icarus. So I begin from the introduction. Does anyone not know the story of Icarus? To escape from the labyrinth, he flies up on a pair of waxen wings, but, in spite of the warnings he receives, comes too close to the sun. The wax melts, throwing him into the sea, where he drowns. Now let us imagine that young Icarus manages to actually live through this ordeal. He falls back into the labyrinth, where he finds himself horribly bruised, but still alive. And let us try to imagine what goes on in his head after this adventure. He has to go back to a normal life after having thought himself capable of attaining the sun, the supreme good. How will he get over this disappointment? Today we find ourselves in a similar situation. For the past 2 centuries, in order to escape from the labyrinth of mediocrity, we have believed ourselves capable of radically transforming man and society. Since Cordyceps, the philosopher of progress has promised to eliminate war, disease, and need, and various ideologies have announced a radiant future. We have just come to the realization. Because of the revelation of human disasters in Eastern Europe, what she's talking about is the Eastern Bloc of communism and socialism, and in the West, through the reappearance of poverty, illiteracy, war, and epidemics, that these hopes were finally in vain. We have fallen back to earth, where we must reappropriate our human condition. But along the way we have lost the keys of understanding, and we no longer recognize this mediocre world, nor do we know its meaning. I've been through this whole book. I've got lots of nice pieces I want to talk about. It would probably be similar to how I did Sowell's Intellectuals in Society series. I would just go through it piece by piece. I don't know how we'll organize it yet. But anyways, there's some great stuff in here. Another thing I remember from reading it, just off the top of my head, is she talks about that because in the past where someone has been so certain, it's always led to disaster, that today people they shy away from anything radical. They don't want radical changes or any radical points of view, because in history, it seems to the public, to the normal person, that these things always lead to disaster, and so there's this shying away from it. anyways, it's a great book, and I want to promote it because for some reason it's not being promoted. It's not. It's certainly, it only has a few Amazon reviews, and I don't know why. It's a really good one. So that's coming. I'm about halfway through Sense and Sensibility. It's decent. It is very much an old literature style novel mostly about two girls that are sisters. But it is worth. I have a few little lines, a few little marks where I think there's a piece that's interesting and worth mentioning, and so that's coming as well. One that I'm working on right now, I'm about halfway through it, is Adler's How to Read a Book. The Classic Guide to Intelligent Reading. This is by Adler and Charles Van Doren. So Mortimer J. Adler, you may know him as a liberal education kind of guy, put together the great works. You may want to check that out. This book is pretty good. I'm, like I said, halfway through it, and I've been making notes through it. I want to do a video or two on it, just kind of information for viewers, because I think it's actually got some nice pieces in here on how to read better, how to read more efficiently, how to know whether one should read fast or slow in different pieces. Even there's a few things in here about reading in general. It says here a kind of a primitive way of reading is how your eyes move. Your eyes kind of focus in on 2 or 3 words at a time, and it shifts like that. Your eyes do this when you read, and he talks about that, and how what you should do is you should almost blur. Your eyes should be moving right across continuously, and almost to the point of blurring the words, but not. You should still be able to pick them up, and so it has to be more of a rather than doing this with your eyes, picking up 2 or 3 words at a time. You're supposed to do a smooth. Anyways, that's another. I'll get to that when I do the book, but there's some good stuff in here. It's worth putting on YouTube. Okay, that's it for the intro. Now I will start with how about the history of the West?